So, without any further ado, we're going to jump right into this. All right, here's a quick list of the topics that we're going to be going over today. And we are glad that all of you have joined us today. We're going to be recording the webinar and posting it up on teachingnomad.com. So you feel free to share that with anyone that's not able to join today. And as mentioned, go ahead and post any of those questions that you have, and we'll be answering those towards the end. So, getting started with packing. I'm taking the first topic, and I took an easy one because there's really not much that you're not going to be able to find in UAE. As a rapidly developing country, there's no shortage of shopping malls, as well as online shopping to find clothing and housewares and most of all the comforts of home that you're used to. I would of course pack for the climate, which is hot, and then hotter. Of course, there are some cool desert nights, right? So for a light jacket would probably be nice for that. But for the most part, you are going to want to be dressing in cool clothing and probably things that are going to reflect light rather than attract it. The one thing that I would suggest is if you have specific brands of medication that you prefer, I would bring those, especially a supply large enough to start you off when you arrive, as it may take a little while to see a doctor and get the prescriptions required to obtain those medicines there in UAE. So you will be able to get any medicines that you need there, but again, I would just recommend bringing a supply with you when you first arrive. All right. That covers packing, so I'm going to hand it over to Maddie, who's part of our team here in the Denver office, to take over the next few topics.
All right, so primarily with housing, you're going to be housed with your school. This is really the most common in the Middle Eastern countries. The school housing provided will typically be within walking distance to campus or a very short commute. And this is just going to be the best for the price in general. But if you do opt for a housing stipend and choose to find your own housing, the UAE has what are called approved realtors. So like the Dubai Land Department is a great resource, and they will have lists of who the approved realtors are for the region, how you can contact them. Standard fee for realtors is around 5% of the annual rent. And apartments can get quite expensive, especially in Dubai, which is why the housing with schools is often the best. If you do end up going with your own housing and having issues with resolving leases or developing contracts, there is a government organization called the Real Estate Regulatory Agency, or RERA, and these can step in for conflicts, and they help expats as well as local Emirati people. So because most expats do house with their schools, we're going to focus a little bit more on what the housing is actually like in the UAE. And the primary difference between UAE housing and some of the housing we'll see in the West is that really all homes are within 20 years newly built. So it's a rapidly developing country. You'll have Western amenities in homes, showers, washing machines, and whatnot. Gated community complexes are very common, which is somewhat unusual for us in the Western world. So you'll be looking at a lot of apartments or homes which are within a gated complex, and will have shared amenities like pools and sports facilities. Something worth noting is that while there is a general modesty dress code for women in the UAE, this dress code does not apply within your complex. So if you're going to the pool or the gym within your gated community, you don't need to worry about being conservatively dressed. Additionally, there are licenses available to be able to consume and own alcohol within your own home. This does not apply to your car or the rest of the complex, however, so just within your own home would be the limit to that one. And then we'll move on to talking a little bit about how you're going to get around. So transportation in the UAE is incredibly easy. Taxis are going to be the most popular. In recent years, the UAE has implemented standardized taxi meters. So the taxis use about 160 AED per minute. A ride from the airport onto your home is going to be about 20 AED. Uber is available within Dubai, but taxis are the most popular. You can get access to buses and metros really all around the Emirates between all of the different cities, and these are available pretty frequently. So each of the different cities also has its own public transit cards available. Dubai uses what's called the Noel card, Abu Dhabi has the Halifax Smart card, and Sharjah has the Sayer card. So each of these are good options, similar to like an Oyster card in the UK where you reload them and travel about that way.
One thing I would like to add about transportation is that it's also relatively easy to rent or lease or even own your own car, which is quite different than a lot of countries in Asia where it can be difficult to get a license. UAE does recognize an international driver's license or like in my case, a U.S. driver's license. It's very easy when I arrive at the airport there in Dubai to just rent a car. Even right there at the rental counter, I've inquired about doing month-long rentals, and the feedback I was provided is that it was quite simple if I did want to lease something long-term, and the prices seem affordable. As you might guess, gasoline is also relatively affordable.
Which is always great. Perfect. So we're just going to transition from talking about transit, how you get around, to what to do while you're getting around, right? So the food in the UAE is a combination of the 85% of the UAE population is non-native, meaning that they're born outside of the Emirates. So that's a really large proportion of the Emirati community who are born overseas. And as a result, there's really diverse food available. So they say that Dubai is a food lover's paradise, but that applies to Abu Dhabi and other regions of the UAE as well. Traditional foods would include like camel and goat, things that would have been available within the Emirates long ago. And these are still available in regions like Old Dubai, where there hasn't been as much development. Really the most common traditional foods that you'll still see around are the strategies of cooking all of your foods in one pot. This is popular due to nomadic culture, so having meats and vegetables in a stew served over bread or rice is still a really common way to eat. Desserts are pretty unique to what we eat here in the U.S., considering that they really favor dates. Dates are incredibly popular, so you'll get dumplings that are fried with date syrup, like in the photo here. There's also sweet dessert noodles available, and these are made with eggs and sometimes even eaten for breakfast. So the desserts available are even more varied than the savory foods based on what we're used to here.
Great. Thanks, Maddie. Next topic is about culture shock. So this is really not specific to the UAE. It's really going to be quite similar anywhere that you go. And I think this is a really important slide to pay attention to because most people, or a lot of people, especially if you've traveled extensively but maybe not lived abroad, don't necessarily expect to experience culture shock, or maybe you don't actually know what it is. What a lot of people expect that it is kind of a lack of understanding or a total kind of being overwhelmed upon your initial arrival. And that's not really accurate. Although that initial arrival can be quite crazy, we call that the honeymoon period. And the elation described in the slide is quite accurate. Even little things can be incredibly entertaining, right? And as you follow that blue line, which is your level of happiness, things quickly get very exciting, right? Because there's so much new things, there's so much new stuff to explore. But the culture shock actually comes after that, and that often takes a few weeks to even maybe a month after being in the new area. And what it was like for me really was where I was feeling resistance against how things were done normally. I almost kind of started to feel like, hey, I know a better way to do this than what you're doing, right? And where it starts to get disorienting or frustrating is when you begin to make an effort to try to change the behaviors of the people around you, right? Because you feel like you know a better way, or you've been through this, or it's done better in my country. sort of situation. So you want to try to push that on those around you. And it's not going to happen. First of all, you should be going over for this experience of learning about and really immersing yourself in this new culture rather than trying to change it, right? And I know this might sound silly right now, but you're going to experience it. So hopefully you can move from that high point of fantasia to the acceptance of reality quite quickly by just really trying to do things their way, right? The people around you. This could be people that you work with and kind of how things are operated within your school, as well to just like what it's like to shop and what, negotiation is like in a market or a souk, really down to the little things. So really just accepting that and going with it is when you're really going to start to enjoy your experience in your new home. So that's part of that experimentation process, learning exactly what works for you, and then you fully adjust. In my experience, that full adjustment period can take anywhere from 3 months to a year. A lot of people I talk to tell me their second year abroad is actually more enjoyable even than the first, because at that point they've kind of hit a groove, they've adjusted to the local culture, they've made some friends, and they found activities that they really enjoy. Okay, that's it for culture shock. So now I'm really excited to hand this over to our special guest. As I said, Mrs. Claudette Unger, head of Sharjah Emirates National School campus. We're going to hand it over here to her for the next few topics, as well as the Q&A at the end. So don't be shy. Feel free to post any questions that you have in that Q&A section, and we'll get to those. Claudette, are you there?
Yes, I am. Thank you, Brett. Hi, everyone. I'm going to start off by talking to you about the cultural differences that I have experienced, as well as what's happening during Ramadan. So Ramadan is they call it the holy month of the holy month. So meaning that the Muslims will fast starting from sunrise until sunset. That also means that there's a shorter day for the schools as well as any organization. We only have a 6-hour day. What that means for us is that there's no eating or drinking in public during that month. There is in malls, however, they are usually covered up. But at school itself, you're also not allowed to eat and drink in public. You can eat and drink in your classroom, or you can eat and drink in the staff room. And then as soon as sun sets, it's called iftar, then they break their fasting, and then restaurants and everything is open as normal. That is quite an experience, getting used to not drinking water when you're in public, because it's usually during summertime, so it's really hot, as well as in malls. And then other cultural important thing is when it comes to when your daily things like shaking hands, as Brett said, it's not normal here in the UAE, especially for a male to reach out to shake the hand of a female, as well as a female shaking hands with a male. If it's a male to a male or a female to a female, then that's okay. Also, if you meet parents and your female and the father is sticking out his hand, then there's no problem in shaking the hand. But don't do it from your side first. In terms of other cultural things that I've experienced is the UAE, in the UAE, they're very welcoming, extremely welcoming. They're very giving. But you do have to abide by the rules. That is it, Brett, from the cultural norms that I can think of. In terms of dressing, if I can just quickly give that, I do, when I'm outside not in work, I do not cover my shoulders when I go to the mall. There's a lot of questions about covering your knees as well. Well, usually when I'm in the malls or out shopping, I do not cover my knees, but I do not wear shorts. So I do have shorts that's just above my knees. When you're inside the school or teaching, obviously you have to cover your knees and you have to cover your shoulders. That is a must. But when you're outside, you don't really have to cover that. But still dress, don't provoke. Still dress, how can I say, properly. But definitely you don't have to cover your knees and your shoulders when you're in the malls, just when you're inside the school, 100%.
Claudette, what would you suggest for a trip to the beach?
Well, when I go to the beach, I wear dresses, with no shoulders. And it's, I would say it's between my knee and my, the top part of my leg. I don't wear short dresses, but I do see that there is people wearing short dresses when they go to the beach. And another thing, Brett, the beaches, because Dubai especially is depending a lot on tourists, there is a lot of, still tourists lying on the beach with only a bikini, and it's not frowned upon. But I won't say that they would walk outside, they would leave the beach wearing the bikini. Then you would throw a dress over or something like that. But on the beaches, it's honestly not a frown upon when you wear a bikini or just lying there in your bikini at all. But like I said, when they leave the beach, then they would wear a dress, a short dress or a short shorts and a t-shirt or a tank top or whatever. That's not a problem, not at all now.
And would I be correct in assuming that drinking alcohol in public is definitely not acceptable?
It's definitely prohibited. It's only, well, that's not very public, but if you go to a hotel, and because the big thing over here, obviously, as you know, is brunches, Friday brunches, and then you can also swim. So they do drink alcohol then in hotels, but you are not allowed to take alcohol to a park, for instance. When you go to a park, you're not allowed to take alcohol then. There is some beaches that has a hotel attached to the beach, like a beach resort. There you can drink alcohol, but not in public parks or not on public beaches, and that is not attached to a hotel. Then you can't drink alcohol at all.
Okay.
Another thing, you can't, the Friday brunches are really big, but you're not allowed to be drunk on street. So if you are walking and you're really drunk, then I would advise you to get into a taxi very quickly, because that is also against the law, being drunk on street. They do go out and do drink, but then usually a taxi picks them up and takes them home directly.
Okay. Good to know.
I don't know if that was a question, but...
Yeah, no, that definitely answers my question. All right, we'll go move on to the next slide here. So again, if any of you listening have any other questions about kind of those cultural norms or do's and don't do's, be sure to throw those in the Q&A, and we'll circle back to them.
Okay.
All right, and now Claudette, a little bit about just kind of technology, any sort of things that are challenging to use there, and different websites or apps that you find useful.
Okay, because the UAE is, the cultural sensitive issues, they do block a lot of websites. But if you download VPN on your phone, ExpressVPN, and there's another one, Thunder VPN. Thunder VPN is really cool, and it's for free. You don't have to pay for it. And then you can open most of the, well, if not all of the websites. Another thing that they also block is Skype. But again, if you have a VPN on your phone or if you have a VPN on your laptop, then it's not an issue. You can Skype. At school, if you want to Skype at school, our school specifically, we do have a business account. So there is a few of the staff that are Skyping from the school. But if you're in home, obviously you can download ExpressVPN or the standard VPN, which are for free, and then you can use almost all the apps. Facebook is a very good source as well. There's a lot of groups on Facebook, like South Africans in Dubai or Americans in Dubai or whatever. And then it's mostly just that nationality on that group. And then you can ask a lot of questions. Especially when you're going home or coming back, that's when they do ask a lot of questions about, are we allowed to bring this in or take that out or whatever. So the groups on Facebook I found to be a very, very big help, especially if you're new. And then We have Amazon.ae. Most of the things you can buy on Amazon in the UAE that you need, and the delivery time is relatively quickly. And like I said, most of the things you can buy on Amazon. In terms of meeting up, I am not 100% sure about meeting up websites, but I can find out and then I can get back to you about that one, Greg. WhatsApp is working, however, you cannot WhatsApp call, except again, if you open your VPN, if you have your VPN, then you can call, but you cannot just call. You can use WhatsApp freely, but you cannot WhatsApp call.
I understand. Okay. It's only for texting.
It's only for texting, yes, and voice notes and message, all the other things is except you cannot WhatsApp call.
Okay. Would you say for shopping, you mentioned Amazon, like here in the U.S., we'll go to Walmart or IKEA and, you can buy everything that you need. Would you say it's common to go to kind of the big box stores like that, or more common to order those sort of items online?
But it depends on what you prefer. I spoke to a lady actually yesterday, and she does all her shopping online. Because of the fact that it's so hot, most of the people are hanging out in the mall, so it can get really, really busy. But you can, both options are freely available. There's the Shein that you can buy your clothes on. Then there's Namshi, very nice website that you can buy clothing on, and then they drop it off as well. If it doesn't fit, they take it back. It's Namshi. So, and then you can IKEA, all of those things you can use online. It really just depends on what you prefer, but they are available to do online shopping as well as going into the mall.
Okay.
One thing though, online shopping for clothing is a lot cheaper than going into the mall, except during summertime sales like now. There's huge sales going on in the malls, very, very cheap. I would say then that's the only time I would think that it's cheaper to buy clothes inside a mall and not online.
Good to know. How about food delivery? Is that popular, or is it more common just to go to a restaurant?
Food delivery is very easy. We have Talabas. That's the two most common ones. Is called Talabas and Zomato. Very easy to order online. Food, you can almost order anything online as well. They also deliver on they also deliver on a relatively good time. I prefer going to a mall because, like I said, most of the people are hanging in the malls. It's very sociable. Food is great, so I prefer going to a mall. That's my preference. But there is staff here that doesn't like to the mall because it's so busy that they rather order food.
Yeah, I've had great experiences eating at the food courts and in malls. I found really high quality food, good prices.
Exactly, yes, definitely. You won't have a problem going to a mall finding food, definitely. And as you know, or most probably people doesn't know that Arabs absolutely love food. Everything is food related. When we have a function at school, we ask the parents, please only bring for one classroom, not for the nation. So yes, they love their food, and they always bring to school in massive amounts. And if you don't take of the food, it's an insult. So people do tend to gain weight when you arrive to the UAE because they do love food and social around food.
Right. Sign me up for that. A question just came in that we didn't actually have covered in the presentation, but I think might be nice to address. Someone's asking about banking. Is there any advice that you could give in terms of like a bank that you like to use that's maybe easier to work with, or any information regarding how to send money home? Is that difficult to do?
No, not at all. So there's two ways to send money home. One thing is I'm with ABCB. That's a very big bank in the UAE. And then you can download the app and then you can register your email not your email, you can register your bank details from your country. And then you can transfer money online. So I transfer money, at the end of the month, every month back to South Africa, and it's really, really convenient because it's linked to my bank account. I do everything online, and it's from my app on my phone. Another way is you can use UAE Exchange, and there's a few other exchange, companies in the UAE where you can transfer money to. That is absolutely not a problem. Very easy, very convenient, and I'm pretty sure the other banks also have apps where you can link it to your bank account directly.
Okay, that's very, very convenient. And I think
very
most
convenient.
people know that the income you earn in the UAE is tax-free in the region. So I don't think there's any concern with, like in some countries you have to prove that you paid tax on the money before you can send it, but certainly that wouldn't be the case in the UAE.
No, not at all. Like I said, I've never had a problem transferring money, and I do it. It takes about 2 or 3 days, obviously, to clear, but it is definitely very easy, very convenient, and not a problem at all.
Okay. Another question came in here about school supplies. Certainly, the supplies provided are going to vary from school to school, so it's tough to address that exactly. But if folks do want to purchase supplies themselves there, is it relatively easy to find?
Very easy, and in comparison to South Africa, I don't know about the other countries, it is very cheap as well. In terms of our school, Emirates National School, we do have a store that you can go to, and you can get your supplies throughout the year, which is obviously free. So any pens, pencils, scissors, glue, whatever, you can go to the store and you can pick it up throughout the year. So we also have a staff room where there is laminators, photocopy machines, you can get paper. So for our school specifically, I cannot think of anything that I would say that you have to bring that we cannot provide or that you cannot buy. We have a massive stationery store here as well. That sells almost anything that you need. And like I said, it's relatively cheap if I have to compare it to South Africa, especially the stationery stuff.
Okay.
But files, plastic sleeves, binder dividers, anything almost, we do give to staff from the store.
Right. Great. That's very convenient. Okay.
Yeah,
I'll go ahead and move us on to the next topic here before we get to some of these other questions. So
Okay, that's a big sports during winter time is very big. There's a big sports club in Dubai, a very big sports club in Abu Dhabi. They play rugby, they play netball. In Sharjah, they also have, it's not as big, and they focus mainly on Gaelic football. I think they call it more of the Irish. But Dubai, I played netball myself over there. You can play netball, you can play rugby. There's a women's touch rugby, or there's a women's rugby team as well, not touch rugby, where they actually tackle one another. So it's sevens. And then obviously, there's the sevens happening in Dubai. And then if you're playing in any of the sports team, you can go into the event for free. So sports, definitely there is sports. There's cycling in Abu Dhabi around the track, the Yas track. So they cycle. There's loads of run. It's not marathons, but you can go and jog, and there's competition for that as well. So there's definitely a lot of sports. You won't find a shortage of it. In terms of leisure, there's also a lot of things to do. You can go and camp in the desert. That is a big thing, camping in the desert. You can go on, desert drives, and then there's sand dune, what I can't remember what they call it now, but you can get on a sort of a thing and fly down all of the dunes.
I think dune bashing, That,
Yeah, something like that. And then you have the dune buggies that you can drive, and there's a lot of resorts that you can go to. Quite expensive, in fact, very expensive during summertime, winter time, because that's the time everyone wants to go. But you get good specials during summertime. But there's definitely a lot of things to do, and also yes.
do you need to purchase all your own equipment, or can you rent that?
If you go camping in the desert, then you have to buy your own equipment. If you go with a company to the desert, they have the dune buggies as well as the slide. It looks like a big board that you sit on that you can slide down the dunes. Then they provide it. There's also
for camping, are there any sort of permits or reservations required, or can you just kind of go out and choose a spot?
No, you just go out and choose a spot and put up your tent, and there you go.
That's great.
Yeah, no, literally, just drive into the desert and camp, and hopefully you will find your way out. That might be a problem, but yeah. But other than that, no, you don't need anything specifically.
Okay. All right. So it sounds like there's plenty of team sports that people can join if they want to, or certainly professional sports. I know there are there's a bike. I'm kind of a cycling fan, and I know there's a big bike race in Abu Dhabi. There's also a Formula One race that comes to town every year. Is that right?
That is correct, Formula One. I do have to say though, joining these clubs, like joining a sports club, going to the Formula One, going to the Seven, that is expensive. These things are not for free. You can do it, but it is quite expensive to do. Hence, with all the other things, it can get expensive, but there is many things to do. Yeah.
Sure. All right. So it sounds like you want to kind of pick and choose what's going to be most important to you.
Exactly. If you don't want to save a lot of money, then obviously you can do all of the things. If you want to save, then because it is expensive living in Abu Dhabi as well as Dubai as well as Sharjah, it is expensive. So then you will have to pick and choose depending on your savings. If you want to save a lot of money, then I would advise you to do one or two of those things. If you're here for the experience and don't want to save, then hey, go for it.
Okay. Are there regarding travel? Are there any nearby countries that you would recommend to visit? Maybe places that are a little, affordable to visit.
Travel is very cheap. Well, not very cheap. Travel is cheaper from here because we're quite central. They can go to Jordan, to the Dead Sea, Oman, Salalah, absolutely beautiful to go to. So Jordan, also nice places to go to. India, Sri Lanka. Qatar might not the best option currently. But yeah, those countries are really nice to visit. Kenya is also not far from here. If you want to go into see the migration, that's also, so there is quite a few countries very close to us that people do visit, over the Eid break or whatever, they fly to India or to Sri Lanka or to Oman, Jordan. And it is very cheap. It's really cheap to go to those countries.
Yeah, I always recommend to folks to take advantage of their geographical location. Sometimes during the summer, it can be tempting to just go home to visit family, which of course is nice. But especially if you're only going to be in the region for a few years, you've got kind of this rare opportunity to be able to explore a lot of really neat places. Of course,
this country is honestly giving you a huge opportunity to go and see the world. And because the dirham is, it's not a weak currency, it's sometimes cheaper for us to go to Europe and see Europe than going back home. Because the flights are so cheap. It's so cheap to fly to London or Paris or what is the other countries that you can go to? Greece. visit Santorini.
Mm-hmm.
It's really cheap to fly to those countries, so you can honestly travel. What a lot of the teachers do is because the holidays is so long, they go and travel for 2 or 3 weeks, and then only do they go home because they get a lot of specials on Holiday Factory. That's another thing that if you know, if you travel at Holiday Factory, it's something to keep in mind. There's sometimes very good specials on Holiday Factory. Groupon is another website that you can keep your eye on for some specials that you can go to, but that's more if you want to go to the GCC countries. But again, you can go to one of those countries for really cheap.
Great. Couple other questions that came in here. I guess this is related to leisure activities, and I know you're married, but someone was asking about what dating is like.
Dating is relatively easy. The nightlife, I said someone asked about nightlife as well. Yes, that is true. There is an excellent nightlife. Usually when I can say a Muslim or a local go to a nightclub, they don't wear their kandoras. They wear like a jean or a t-shirt or whatever. So sometimes they do go out, and then they blend in with the rest of the culture. There's a huge Irish population, and they are known for their parties. But it is, worldwide, they are known for it. But yes, the nightlife is excellent. Dating, I have met a few people that met their husbands, and then it's not generally, I'm talking about marrying a local, meeting or met their husbands here in the UAE. They go on Tinder. I don't know, I've heard many horror stories about Tinder as well, but they do go on Tinder. Dating, you can date. You can date anyone, in fact. However, when you live with someone and you're not married, that can cause problems. So dating, people are dating like you would date in any other country. The only thing that I would, the police is not going to knock on your door and tell you that who's living here, but you're not allowed to live with your partner if you are not married. And if there is someone that complains about it, it can get you into deep trouble. So I wouldn't advise living together, but dating is, I would say, like in any other country. Nightlife, like in any other country. In fact, the parties here are really, really good.
Okay. That also reminds me of going back to kind of the cultural stuff, public displays of affection. Maybe you could talk about that a little bit.
You know what, Brett, I've seen a lot of, lately, you see a lot of locals walking around holding hands. They're not going to cling on one another and sit in public and kiss and like that. But if you, I've kissed my husband and say thank you, for the dinner or whatever in public, but it's not like you're hanging on one another. But they do hold hands and they do give a kiss here and there. So, but again, it's not, you don't provoke. It's not provocative, if I can say it like that, if you understand what I'm saying.
Sure.
But they do show affection. I've seen locals walking completely covered, holding her husband's hand in Dubai. So yeah, the culture is, like I said, they're very receptive of it. But I have seen locals holding hands in public.
I think that's probably a misconception then for a lot of folks coming from Western countries, is just that all of that PDA is completely unacceptable. But I suppose, like in a lot of things, it's the region is just becoming more and more international.
That's true. And another very, very incorrect perspective is that they treat women differently than men. What they do? They do treat us differently, but they actually treat us much better. If I go into a bank, there is a queue only for women. And then my husband sends me to go and do all the things for the vehicles because there is a queue only for women. And I'm in and out in 20 minutes and he's sitting in a queue for 2-3 hours. So that, or if they treat you. My personal opinion is that we get much better treatment in this country than in my own country, especially when it comes to going to public services. There is two specifically for a female in banks, and they do. Hospitals, obviously, it's first come, first served, but there is two areas that you can sit with, female only and male only. And they have if you have a male doctor, I know some females might worry about that. They really do have very good bedside manners, and because they do take the culture into consideration, but they do treat you very well. The idea of we are less is absolutely not true at all.
Thank you for debunking that. Cause yeah, that is something a question that gets posed to us quite often. And actually that brings up, you mentioned doctors and medical treatment. Maybe you could touch on that a little bit and what it's kind of like to visit a doctor or a hospital.
The access to care that's in English as well is a concern for some people.
There is a lot of expat doctors that you can visit. Fortunately, we have a very good medical aid. Again, I'm talking on behalf of our school. We have excellent medical care. I recently actually went for a ACL reconstruction knee operation, and I'm telling you, it was excellent. The doctor was from the UK. The anesthesist was from Australia. And then I had the lady that did the physio afterwards, she was from South Africa. So because there's so much money in this country, they have the latest technology when you go to hospitals. So they do not have to worry about going to doctors that you don't understand or that's from other region or whatever. There is a lot of doctors from South Africa, from Canada, from America, from UK that you can go to and can get treatment.
Right, that's great to know. I know that'll be a relief for a lot of people.
Yeah, I also, sorry, Brett. Also, there's a few ladies that had babies in the UAE as well, and again. The service afterward was excellent. The doctor was expert doctors. The hospitals are really clean. So they do not have to worry about their health care in the UAE at all.
Okay, great. Questions came in that we've already covered. So I just want to mention these here as far as packing. We did talk about that at the beginning. So you'll be able to re-listen to a recording of the webinar when we post that online. Regarding, someone asked about visas, it does vary depending on the country that you're from. So I think it may be better to address that on an individual basis rather than kind of broadly right now.
Brett, one thing that I can say about the visas is if you have a family that you're bringing with you, they will first do your visa. So if your family can come into the country on a tourist visa, then they will come in with you on a tourist visa. And then once you, as the main sponsor, have passed your medical test, as well as all the other requirements, and you have your stamp in your passport, then only can you sponsor your spouse or your children.
Okay, great.
In that case, then, if they cannot enter on a tourist visa, would it be better for them to wait until your work permit is approved and then sponsor there?
Yes, I came in at first like that because we don't have entry, but we don't have that. So I had to be here for about a month or two, and then once I had finalized everything, well, it takes about 2 weeks now. Things have really sped up. So it takes about 2 to 3 weeks. Once you have done all your stuff, then you can sponsor your family.
Okay. I know, and if you're not sure if a tourist visa is required from your country, you can check visahq.com. You just punch in where you're from and where you're going, and it'll tell you what the visa requirements are for it.
Yes.
Question came in about cell phones. Is connectivity pretty good? Is it affordable? What's that like?
We have two providers, Do and Etisalat. The majority of the people are going with Etisalat. It's very affordable. You can buy packages or you can go on pay as you go. I have a package, it's 1,000 local minutes and 200 international minutes as well as 5 GB. I think that is 350 or 400 dirham a month, something like that. And then you can buy add-ons for 50 dirham, depending on if you want data or if you want international call or local calls or whatever. But it is, you get international plans, like I just said. You can call home. You get different packages. Like I said, for 200, was it 100 minutes? 100 minutes international is 50 dirham a package. If you don't have that package, it can get quite expensive. Also, I'm going home now, and then you can buy a monthly roaming pack for 600 dirhams, and that includes also a few roaming minutes. I think it's 500 roaming minutes as well as 5 GB data. So there is loads of options available depending on your individual needs. Okay, so
a little bit expensive. You mentioned about 350 dirham per month. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, yeah, that's around 90.
I don't know what is the prices of other countries, but in terms of salary, I wouldn't say that it is a big expense.
Okay. All right.
And then I can't remember. I will think about it in a minute.
No problem. Someone asked about voltage for electrical outlets. You know off the top of your head if it's 110 or 220?
I have no idea.
No problem. I believe it is 110 like we use in the U.S., but the outlet is different. That I can assure you. Like your U.S. style plug will not work, and you'll want to bring a travel adapter. But yeah, that would be a good thing to research. If you do plug a 110 device into a 220 outlet, you will burn it out pretty quickly. So that applies to things like curling irons and hair dryers. I'm not sure about a CPAP machine or not, but yeah, that would be an important thing to research.
And if you travel quite a bit, you can find very cheap converters with multiple countries and the voltage converter available. I think I got mine at Walmart for like $15 before a big trip. So it's pretty easy to get one that's multi-purpose.
Great.
Brett, I also see that they asked about driving license. I know that the one said about Saudi Arabia. I'm not sure if he can use his driver's license, but it's very easy to convert your driver's license into a UAE license. It takes about a few hours. You go in, do an eye test, fill out paperwork, pay the money, and they print your license then and there.
Great.
Your license card. Yeah, it's a very easy process.
One thing I'll mention about driving, just from my own experience, if you speed, if you go above the speed limit, don't expect to get pulled over by a police car. Your ticket will come in the mail. They have these photo speed cameras all over the place. So don't push your limit. When I got back after my first trip, I got a call from the rental car agency, that I'd gone a couple miles an hour over the speed limit, and the tickets are not cheap. So yeah, keep that in mind.
No, Brett, they are extremely expensive, and now they've changed the law in Abu Dhabi. If the speeding limit is 120, you have to be on 120. The grace they have scrapped. So there's no more grace kilometers. When it's 120, you can drive 129. They have scrapped that completely. So when it's 100, you have to drive 100 or you get a fine. There is still grace in Dubai and Sharjah, Abu Dhabi. They have taken away the grace kilometers or however you can explain it. They have taken that away. So if it's 120, it's 120. That's it.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, which the speed limit is quite fast there as it is, so you can't really complain too much. It's much higher than it is here in the U.S.
Yeah, it's 140 kilometers on the highway.
Yeah, that's quite fast.
You know that if you wanted to drive in the UAE, it's very stressful because everyone is driving extremely fast, and it's something that you will have to get used to if you are not used to this type of driving. Cutting lanes, driving partially on the shoulder. So yeah, that is quite something to get used to, is driving in the UAE.
And no turn signals. People almost never use the turn signal, I noticed.
Exactly. And the thing is they drive these big cars, 4x4s, most of the people. So if you here with your small little Uno, then, I mean, it's quite challenging, yes.
Yeah.
But like you said, again, it's easy to rent a car. It's cheap to buy a car as well, especially 4x4s. It's not that expensive. But I'm not talking about your Land Rovers and stuff like that. But cars is quite cheap in the UAE, yes. Not as cheap as it was, but it is still affordable.
Okay. Good.
Talking about renting cars, there is a lot of car places where if you can prove that you're a teacher, they give you discounts. So you get a teacher's rate for renting cars specifically.
That's nice.
Yeah, so once you have your passport, you just take your passport because on there it will obviously say teacher and then you get a discounted price.
Right. Okay. Mm-hmm. Well, I know we're just kind of wrapping up here. We've just got a couple minutes left, so if there are any remaining questions you want to throw out there real quick, I would do that now. Otherwise, Claudette, anything you want to kind of put out there in conclusion? I know you've been in the region since 2011, is that right?
That's correct, yes.
Yeah. Maybe you can just kind of summarize your experience for us here real quick in conclusion.
You know what, Brett, I absolutely love living in the UAE. I love the culture. The culture is really loud, and it is, like you said, if you just go with it, you will really, really love living in the UAE. We had a lot of people coming in saying, I'm doing my 2 years, and then they leave, and then they stay up doing 3 or 4 or 5. There's a big expat community, a big expat community. The chances that you will have expat friends and it's actually much better than having, I would say, local friends because of the big expat community. And then again, the excellent nightlife that we experience here, as well as the sports that's going on and the events. I mean, there's so many events and artists coming to the UAE singing here. It's really unbelievable. There is things that you will have to get used to, like you said, like inshallah, tomorrow doesn't always mean tomorrow. It might mean within a week from now. So you need a lot of patience. And like I said, if they're saying 5 minutes, be guaranteed it's an hour and 5 minutes if you're lucky. But if you can learn to live with that, it's really a country that provides you with so much opportunity to travel, number one, and to actually be able to live and save at the same time. It's a very comfortable lifestyle, especially if you're single. It's extremely comfortable lifestyle. And that's what I'm saying. And this, as you know, Brett, the UAE is more relying now on single people than families. So there's a huge amount of single people, young single people as well in the country. So you will not find it difficult to make friends and to adapt to the circumstances. And obviously getting used to 50 degrees and walking out and you can't see anything through your glasses because it's so hot. Then you will be fine.
All right. Great. Awesome.
Our winters is 24 degrees. That's winter. This one lady asked if she pack any warm clothes. If you talk about a very thin sweater as warm clothes, then I would say yes, because it can get cool during the winters. Now where you have to do something, put on something very thin, but you do not have to pack or even China, or, you know, it's not cold at all.
Yeah, yeah. Don't waste the precious space in your bag with a thick winter coat. You won't.
No, no, definitely not. You gotta waste the space.
Great. All right. Well, I think that wraps it up, Claudette. We really appreciate your time. Thanks for joining us today. Enjoy your summer off.
Thank you, I will, Brett. And I just want to say to, you know, everyone out there, if you're coming to Sharjah, please feel free to contact me at any time. I am available. If you have any other additional questions before you come, I'm really willing to help and answer any questions where I can.
Great. Excellent. We'll make your contact info available to those folks that are going to Sharjah.
Yes, and you know what, Brett, in fact, you can ask, if anyone coming to ENS, I will ask questions as much as I can. If it's campus-related questions, I will do my best. However, obviously, I will not be able to answer all the questions if it's specifically to campus, but if it is still the accommodation on the life, I have been, like, you know, I'm coming from the Abu Dhabi campus, NBZ campus, I will definitely be able to answer most of the questions. So, if anyone wants to get in contact regarding anything about Emirates National School, please feel free to contact me, and you can put my contact details on there. I won't be on my school email every day, but I don't know if you have my Gmail account, Brett, then they can contact me on my Gmail account.
I don't, but I'll send me that when we get done here. We'll make it available to those folks. We're going to post this recording all over the web, so probably better not to share it right now. you might get buried.
Yeah, you never know. No problem, Brett. I will send it to you right away.
Okay, great.
Okay, great. Yes. Thank you very much. And then one last thing, if someone is coming to Sharjah specifically, I do have a few info. I have already sent an email to everyone, but if I missed someone, I've sent out a guide. What is it like to living in the UAE, as well as what it is like to live in Sharjah specifically. I can share those guides as well.
Excellent. Okay. Yeah, maybe we could we can share that. We could probably put a link to that with the posting of the webinar. Make that available to everyone. That would be great.
Okay, wonderful. No problem.
Excellent.
Thanks so much, Claudette. Have a safe flight home.
Thank you. You too. And Brett, I will send you that email now, and I will. Oh, my laptop. I'm going to forward you that email I've sent to staff with the attachments. Okay, so then if you want to read through it first and then decide if you want to send it to everyone, no problem.
Okay, will do.
Okay.
Great. Yeah,
thank you, wonderful. No problem. Have a wonderful, thank you, you too, Brett. Have a wonderful evening, and then bye to everyone else out there.
Great. Thanks, Claudette. Bye.
Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.